But I just feel decent. Yeah. Thanks for coming up. Yeah. Catch you later. Yeah.
Hey there, neighbor. We're just gonna call it.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 41st Annual Moscow Renaissance Fair. I'm Lou Ann Scott. I'm president of this year's planning committee. And in a moment, I'll turn the microphone over to our queen to open the fair. But first, I want to say a few words about John Kroc. As president of the Moscow Renaissance Fair, one of my responsibilities is to choose the royalty for the fair each year. And we honor these people for their activism and their contributions to our community. This year, I was actually lobbied to choose John as our king. And he agreed to do it, reluctantly, of course, because of the person he was. But he was the perfect choice for king. Countless persons have benefited from his knowledge, his encouragement, his financial assistance, and his absolute enthusiasm for the adventure of life. As most of you know, on Monday this week, we lost John to cancer. And we are all mourning this loss, especially Lorene, his wife, and partner in adventure. She's here today to reign over the fair. She wants to carry on and help us honor him and celebrate a life well lived. So stop by the royalty tent sometime today, lend your love and support to our brave queen. And now I'd like to introduce her and get the fair underway. Presenting Queen Lorene Sorensen.
I bow to you, my subjects, my tribe, my beloved community. There are two things about being about being queen of the Renaissance Fair that astonish me. One is that I get to symbolize the two most beautiful things of my life here. I feel that I'm a symbol of the spirit of Moscow, the way that we all take care of each other, the way that we look after our own. And also, the spring of the Palouse, which, of all the places I've lived and all the continents I've traveled in, I still found it a hallucinatorily astonishing shade of green when John first brought me here in May of 2002. And one of his wishes, which was fulfilled, was he wanted to see spring come to the Palouse one last time. And that he did. He got to see baby lambs in our yard, baby chickens, courtesy of me and the feed store. And I would just day by day tell him the different flowers that were coming up in our gardens so he could go out and look for them. And I wouldn't have known what to call many of those flowers except for the love and sometimes impatience with which he taught me how to know the flowers and the trees of the Northwest. John is all over this park because in his past career as an arborist, he was able to work on every single one of these trees, and at least the ones that are still standing today. He told me not the names of them all, but just how many diverse species of trees were carefully brought to this park, which is I feel the heart of this town, at least the outdoor heart of this town. You can argue about the co-op and Hyperspud Sports, which is the indoor heart of this town. You know, my grandmother used to recite a line to me all the time. For I'm to be queen of the May, mother, I'm to be queen of the May. And it came true. But this morning, what delayed me was I decided, English major twice over that I am, to read the entire. I looked up the quote and found that it wasn't a nursery rhyme. It's actually a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And odder yet, it was indexed in the anthology I looked at under Death and Bereavement. And so I read the poem, and like many good Victorian poems, it tells a story. And it starts with the story of a young woman rejoicing because she's been chosen over many of her peers to be the Queen of the May, to dance the maypole, to gather up flowers and bring them to the celebration. But as the poem goes on, something happens. She becomes ill, and she realizes that she isn't going to make it into the new year. And she talks about wanting so badly to see the snowdrops coming. John was lucky. He got to see the snowdrops, he got to see the tulips, and the false hellebore, and the grape hyacinths, and all the other, and the flowering plum, and all of the other beauties of spring in this place where we live and love. In his spirit, and in the spirit of spring, I hereby open the Moscow Renaissance Fair. And I would like to invite I'd like to introduce the members of my band, AKA my court. Daniel Reeder, my staunch bodyguard. Emma and Hannah Reeder, my princesses and ladies in waiting. And Gary McFarlane, my consort and regent. I chose Gary because he symbolizes the activism and the love of the wild places that John spent his life serving, exploring, and inviting other people to enjoy. And he is carrying another environmental warrior's crown, Tom Lamars, who was king in 2003, who very graciously offered this for our ceremony today. So please, a hand for my entourage.